Tonight, Friday Night SmackDown airs once again from the Amway Center in Orlando, Florida, inside the WWE Thunderdome. But tonight is night one of the 2020 WWE Draft. Of course, night two will be airing Monday night on Raw. It's overdue. Even though the first draft was a year ago, it's very overdue because both rosters have become incredibly stale, and we've seen, especially on Monday Night Raw, we've seen rematch-mania in recent weeks. So thank God, quite frankly, we're getting new rosters, and that's essentially what it is. This isn't the draft in the sense of in previous years, whereby it's largely the rosters are going to stay the same, but people are moving. A few people are moving here and a few people are moving there. It's not a draft lottery where, say, 5 people are moving from Raw to SmackDown and 5 people are moving from SmackDown to Raw. That's really not the case. Essentially, we're getting a repeat of what happened last year. At this point, we could have entirely different rosters. Everyone is a free agent essentially as we come into tonight's first night of the WWE Draft. Now, as I mentioned, it will start tonight on SmackDown on Fox and then conclude on Raw on Monday. WWE Chief Brand Officer Stephanie McMahon, as she did last year, will preside over both nights' selections on Raw and SmackDown. Now, it was first reported by Fox Sports yesterday that the rules and superstar pools have now been finalized for the 2020 draft. So let's get into the rules for tonight's WWE Draft. Over 60 male superstars, female superstars, and tag teams have been placed into the 2020 WWE Draft. More than 20 superstars are eligible to be drafted on Friday night, and more than 30 superstars are eligible to be drafted on Monday night. And due to the length of each show, for every 2 picks that SmackDown selects, Raw will get 3 picks. Tag teams will count as 1 pick unless Fox or USA Network, in conjunction with WWE officials, wants to pick 1 superstar from the team. Any undrafted superstars will immediately be declared free agents and be able to sign with the brand of their choosing. Now, WWE superstars have been split into eligible pools for Friday and Monday's episode of the WWE Draft. Conversations have been ongoing between WWE officials, Fox, and USA Network, so stay locked in to WWE Digital for the latest. That is what WWE.com's article says. So we'll go through the pool for tonight's episode of Friday Night SmackDown. So we have the Raw Women's Champion Asuka, we have Sasha Banks, Bianca Belair, Dana Brooke, Humberto Carrillo, Angel Garza, Drew Gulak, Heavy Machinery, so that includes Otis and Tucker, the entirety of the Hurt Business, so that's Bobby Lashley, the United States Champion Bobby Lashley, Shelton Benjamin, Cedric Alexander, and MVP, Mickie James, the Lucha House Party, which of course consists of Kalisto, Gran Metalik, and Lince Dorado, WWE Champion Drew McIntyre, The Miz and John Morrison, curiously, are put together as a team in here, Murphy, Ray, and Dominic Mysterio are also put together as a tag team here, which is very, very interesting. Naomi, you also have The New Day, which includes Big E, Kofi Kingston, and Xavier Woods, WWE Universal Champion Roman Reigns, Ricochet, Seth Rollins, Mandy Rose, Shayna Baszler, and Nia Jax are listed as a tag team. I guess they are tag team champions, even if they're not really a tag team. Shorty G, AJ Styles, and Jey Uso all to be drafted to their brands tonight. Or if they're not, as they mentioned, they will become free agents. So it's going to be a really interesting one tonight. As I mentioned previously, this is long overdue for me. I think that realistically, this really needed to be done, I would say, at least a couple of months ago, because it feels like we've seen a very stale roster, especially on Monday Night Raw. We've seen so many rematches over the last few weeks. It's been absolutely ridiculous. It really has been outrageous how ridiculous it is. Now, what's interesting is that we got no NXT names, so NXT is not involved in the draft, which again is very disappointing. To me, that reaffirms that NXT is developmental. This whole talk that when NXT went to the USA Network in 2019, it went to 2 hours, that this was a full-fledged third brand and NXT was the main roster as well. It was on a par with Raw and SmackDown, and all the hard work they did with putting NXT over Raw and SmackDown during Survivor Series last year. In events like this, it shows you WWE's true feelings. NXT is separate, it is developmental, and it doesn't matter in the eyes of Vince McMahon, unfortunately. That's how it goes. It really doesn't matter. So That's a shame. That is a shame because I think everyone would have liked to see NXT involved in this draft. Not so much so for the NXT superstars going to Raw and SmackDown, but I think more so for the superstars going from Raw and SmackDown to NXT. I think that's really what everyone wants to see there. We mentioned the draft pools there. I'd really like to see Mickie James go to NXT, or get some stars in there. Have Shorty G go back to NXT. Have Ricochet go back to NXT. Something like that. Just something different. Have John Morrison go to NXT. That just have something different and present NXT in a different light. I've mentioned this about a million times. I'm already driving myself insane saying it, so I don't know about you, but if WWE truly wants to compete with AEW on Wednesday nights, you would put big stars on NXT, and they don't do so. The draft would have been a perfect chance to do this. But it shows you where WWE's priorities lie when it comes to that Wednesday Night War. The priority is about getting viewers off AEW, not so much beating them, but ensuring that they don't get close to 1 million viewers. And as long as NXT stays on Wednesday nights, that's exactly what they're going to do. So that's just the case of that. So that's disappointing. In terms of big moves, I think I'd be quite frankly stunned if we had the world champion switch brands. I don't think that's going to happen. So I think Drew McIntyre will stay on Raw. I think Roman Reigns will stay on SmackDown. Looking through this list, I think, if you see the Raw Women's Champion Asuka, it feels inevitable that she would stay on Raw. I mean, she has to. I could see a scenario where maybe Sasha Banks gets drafted to Raw. I could also see a scenario where someone like maybe the Hurt Business gets drafted to SmackDown. I could also see a scenario, and they mentioned about the breakup rule there. I could see a scenario where The Miz stays on SmackDown and John Morrison goes to Raw, and see something like that. I think that's possible. But in terms of that pool that I've just read out there, I think maybe one of the biggest moves we'll see tonight is AJ Styles. AJ Styles is currently on Friday Night SmackDown after being traded from Raw to SmackDown in the summer. That was, by all accounts, to get away from Paul Heyman, and then wouldn't you know it, only a few months later, Paul Heyman shows up on SmackDown too. So AJ Styles and Paul Heyman have heat. They don't see eye to eye. So AJ wants to go back to Raw. That isn't just the only factor in that. I think another reason is also AJ Styles has mentioned that being live on Friday doesn't suit his schedule very well. He wants to go to his son's football games. So he wants to move back to Raw for that reason. So Raw needs him. Raw needs stars. The ratings for Raw suck, and that program sucks. Even on weeks where Raw is good, it's still not great. That's because it's 3 hours. Until WWE changes that, nothing's going to change really on that program, but that's not going to happen for a very, very long time. USA Network pays them very, very well for that third hour, so WWE really doesn't care, quite frankly, about that. So I would say that's probably the biggest switch I think we'd see tonight is AJ Styles going from SmackDown to Raw. I could potentially a lot of people have been speaking about Seth Rollins. Where would he go? I think it would be great if he goes to SmackDown. I think that he's been on Monday Night Raw, obviously, since that draft last year, but prior to that, he was a bit of a mainstay on Raw anyway. He's been on Raw, since... If you want to go back to the original brand extension, not the original in 2002, but the original when the rosters were split back in 2016, hasn't he always been on Raw? I'm pretty sure he's always been on Raw. So I think it would be a massive need for him to move to SmackDown. I think that'd be the best thing for him and to refresh the character. I think just a different change of scenery would be good for him. And it would put him on the same brand as Roman Reigns. And I think they could do a lot of fun there, potentially with a Roman Reigns-Seth Rollins feud, even though they are kind of heels. I think there would be something there. There's something they could do there. Heck, we could do a two-man power trip. Who knows about that one? So I think potentially we could see AJ Styles go to Raw tonight and see Seth Rollins go to SmackDown. That would be my two sort of big picks that I think may happen tonight. Possibly Sasha Banks moving as well. Depends how long the feud with Bayley goes on for, to be honest. I know she's challenging for the SmackDown Women's Championship tonight, but we'll have to wait and see about that. Let's also have a quick look about the draft pool for Monday's episode of Raw. So we have Andrade, SmackDown Women's Champion Bayley, Aleister Black, Alexa Bliss, Daniel Bryan, Carmella, King Corbin, Apollo Crews, Nikki Cross, Dabba-Kato. Yes, he's an actual WWE superstar, not just a Raw Underground fighter. Dolph Ziggler and Robert Roode, Elias, Eric of the Viking Raiders. Interesting that only Eric is listed there. That, of course, is because Ivar is out of an injury. He just had neck surgery, so he's going to be out for at least a year probably, if not longer. Let's hope he gets back into the ring soon. But Eric also actually has just undergone surgery too, so he'll be on the shelf anyway. So I could see him becoming a free agent, quite frankly. You got Lacey Evans, Charlotte Flair. Interesting that Charlotte Flair has been put on there when other inactive talent haven't been put in the draft pool. So that could be a sign that Charlotte Flair is soon to return to WWE. We've got Jeff Hardy, Billy Kay, Lana, Keith Lee, Riddick Moss, Natalia, Randy Orton, Kevin Owens, R-Truth, the entirety of Retribution, so that's Mustafa Ali as the leader, T-Bar, Mace, Slapjack, Reckoning, and Retaliation. Yes, those names are still awful, and they're all written in caps, by the way, which is just horrifying. Matt Riddle, the Riot Squad, which is Ruby Riott and Liv Morgan, Peyton Royce, Arturo Ruas, Sheamus, Shinsuke Nakamura and Cesaro, of course the SmackDown Tag Team Champions, the Street Profits, Angelo Dawkins and Montez Ford, the Raw Tag Team Champions, Braun Strowman, I think it's a certainty he moves to Raw, by the way, Tamina, Akira Tozawa, Zelina Vega, The Fiend / Bray Wyatt, and Sami Zayn. So we'll find out about The Fiend's future on Monday Night Raw, which is an interesting one, because I do think there is a slight possibility that Bray Wyatt could move to Monday Night Raw. I mentioned last year, by the way, this is something that I pitched 12 months ago, and I still think it would be a lot of fun. Why not, considering especially you're running shows in the same venue, it shouldn't be a massive problem. Why not have the Firefly Funhouse Bray Wyatt on Raw on Monday nights, and then have The Fiend on SmackDown on Friday nights? Now, I know people say that's overexposure, but technically they're different characters. I think it would be quite a fun concept to see Bray Wyatt on one brand and The Fiend on another, and then screw it, put the Year of Worlds on NXT. No, I'm joking. But it would be interesting, right? It would be unique and it'd be different. I don't think that will happen, but I just think that would be really interesting. And the Intercontinental Champion, Sami Zayn, is also in that draft pool. So, obviously, Mondays has a longer draft pool because it's a longer show. Obviously, the bigger names are tonight on SmackDown when it comes to the World Champions. So, we'll know about the World Championship status tonight on SmackDown. As I mentioned, I don't think we're going to see McIntyre go to SmackDown or Reigns go to Raw or anything like that. Fox are in love with Roman Reigns. He's their biggest star in WWE right now, so he isn't moving. Drew McIntyre is very happy on Monday Night Raw, so I don't see that changing. As I mentioned, I think the biggest switches tonight will be AJ Styles to Raw and Seth Rollins to SmackDown. Monday night, who knows what could happen? Realistically, when it comes to Retribution, why on earth would you want to draft them? I think it'd be a lot of fun to not draft them and have officials for either show keep them as free agents and then start their Retribution all over again. I think that would be quite interesting. Although we could see a scenario similar to Ric Flair in the 2002 draft, whereby he drafted the entirety of the NWO and everyone was baffled why you would do that in the first place. So I think we could see a scenario in seeing something like that on Monday Night Raw. Now, I mentioned there was a couple of omissions there as well that didn't make the draft pools, so it's not too much to read into it, to be honest. Most of the names that aren't included in either draft pool for tonight's episode of SmackDown or Monday night's episode of Raw are for some documented reason, or they're just not currently on TV. But it was interesting to see who wasn't in either draft pool. So names that weren't included for either draft pool includes Becky Lynch, former Raw Women's Champion. Of course, there's nothing to really look at that. She's on maternity leave. I think that just comes down to WWE not being sure if and when she's going to return. I do think she will eventually return to WWE TV, but that's a long way off now. What's the point in drafting her to either Raw and SmackDown? And also, if you put on SmackDown tonight, Becky Lynch has been drafted to SmackDown, you give some false impressions that she's going to be drafted to she's going to be coming to SmackDown rather, and appearing on SmackDown in the near future, and you just don't want to get people's hopes up. Vince McMahon is very much not for wanting to get people's hopes up. That's why he doesn't like people commenting on the CM Punk chants, because he thinks that once you identify with the chants, that means that he's going to be showing up on TV soon, or people think rather he's going to be showing up on TV soon. So I think it's the same here for Becky Lynch. Why would you mention her if she's not going to be appearing soon? So I think that's smart. Other names include the Big Show. Big Show just makes appearances if and when. Mostly it's been on Raw as of recently, but he's one of those people that could appear anywhere. So again, that's not a problem. Bo Dallas is an interesting one. There was lots of rumours that the mystery person on NXT before it was revealed to be Ember Moon could be Bo Dallas. So interesting that Bo Dallas hasn't been listed in any. That could show that this rumoured return to NXT for Bo Dallas is still a possibility, so look out for that. Brock Lesnar, obviously, is not listed in either as well. No surprise, since he's not currently still under contract. His contract has expired with WWE. He's expected to re-sign, but both sides are taking their time on working on negotiations for that, so that makes sense. Why would you have someone who's not under contract in a drafting pool? Ivar, I mentioned, of course, he's on the shelf with the injury, the neck injury that we mentioned. We've got Jackson Riker, Steve Cutler, and Wesley Black of the Forgotten Sons. They're not listed. They've just been MIA ever since the infamous Trump tweet about that, so I'm not surprised now. I don't think anyone really knows what to do with them at the moment. There have been rumors that Edge is, because he is technically part of the creative team, was pitching ways for them to return to WWE TV, but we'll have to wait and see. Jimmy Uso, curiously, is not on there. We did see an appearance from him at Clash of Champions, and obviously Jey Uso is involved in the feud with Roman Reigns on SmackDown, but he's not cleared to return until January, so maybe it's the same situation as Becky Lynch. They don't know when he's going to return, and why advertise someone that isn't going to be returning anytime soon. Jinder Mahal, same reason. He's on the shelf with a knee injury. He had surgery back in May after only returning in April. So again, they don't know when he's going to return, so why draft an injured person? Lars Sullivan's a curious one because by all accounts he's cleared and ready to return. The issue is that during his time away, a lot of stuff blew up about him in the worst way possible, whether it was the allegations of racism, the past racist comments and inappropriate comments that he made, and also the adult entertainment side of his past that people I don't know knew about as well. So I think with Lars Sullivan, WWE just aren't sure what to do with that guy. Maybe he's just going to sit out of his contract. I don't know. Kane, of course, isn't listed. He is the mayor of Knoxville, Tennessee. He's not an active performer. Mojo Rawley is an interesting one as well because by all accounts he's not injured. I would have thought he would have been involved. We haven't seen him much since Gronk left post-WrestleMania. So another one, he could be returning to NXT in the near future. That would be good to see him go there. Samoa Joe is an interesting one there as well. Of course, he's a color commentator for Monday Night Raw and has been after having a few injuries. He's done an interview recently saying that he's not done in the ring, not by any shot. He's just taking his time doing commentary. He's healing up. He's getting himself ready, but he's not done in the ring. So Samoa Joe hasn't wrestled his last match. I'm under the assumption he's just not involved in the draft because, one, he's injured, and two, it's because he's a commentator for Raw at the moment. Why would you draft a commentator? None of the other commentators are eligible to be drafted, so why would you have Samoa Joe in there? Shane McMahon's not listed. He's a McMahon who drafts a McMahon, and that's it. So it's interesting the names aren't listed, as I mentioned. There's only a couple there that really stand out. Mojo Rawley and Bo Dallas are the ones that really stand out to me of we could see them possibly going back to NXT. But it's going to be an interesting night. I'm looking forward to it. Who doesn't enjoy a draft episode? Everyone does, and it's nice to see things get shook up on the WWE roster. But of course, as always, this is just one man's opinion. What are your thoughts on tonight's WWE draft, night one of the WWE draft? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Don't forget to leave me a comment. I really enjoy interacting with you guys and chatting with you guys about wrestling on this channel. If you have enjoyed this video, please do smash a like on the like button as well. It really just help us out here on YouTube, go up the rankings and get into people's recommendation feeds if they haven't seen our videos previously. But most importantly, if you haven't already, please do subscribe to Wrestle News 365. You can do that by clicking the bottom right hand corner of the screen right now, or if you wait a few seconds, there'll be a subscribe button at the end of this video along with another video for you to watch. Easy for me to say. Thank you very much for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. And I'll speak to you again very, very soon.
Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.